What is the worst thing you've overheard while pretending to be asleep? Something like she's too old for this. I'm not going to carry her up to bed anymore. And that was the last time I was magically transported from the living room couch to my bedroom. I was a camp counselor. Two girls very much like to make hot or not lists. One of them suggested a male counselor was hot, and the other said he was saying mean things about me behind my back, which made him not hot. Hurt to hear that from my campers, but glad they supported me. That I was dying with meningitis, but jokes on the doctors, I'm still kicking. Old roommates planning to kick me out. My mom having an affair with her fiance's best friend, who was married, in the same room that I was sleeping in. I was like 10 years old. Edit, spelling. My family was staying at a friend's house and had to share a room. My dad comes to bed hammered and says to my mum something along the lines of, "Does it impress you that I'm this drunk and can still perform?" I actually wanted to die. In college, woke up to roommate's bed creaking. I shoot up to see what the hell is going on. There I see some woman on her back with her legs full spread eagle, and my roommate just pile driving it like it was his last day on earth. Like a good bro, I quickly lie back down and pretend to be asleep. In between gasps of "Is your roommate to wake him?" Nor he sleeps through anything. Cut to next morning, I casually get up and turn on my PlayStation 2 and start playing some random game. Roommate's fling gets up and casually comes over and sits next to me. Her, "Good morning, my name me." Good morning, her name her. "Did you sleep good last night me?" "Yeah. I can sleep through anything." As the last word left my mouth, I immediately realize I blew it. She began a huge flurry of slaps at my roommate while cursing at him. He didn't care because he was too busy laughing the whole time. Edit. This is my first major comment of Reddit. Thanks for all the updates and awards. I'm glad I could make so many people laugh. And just to clarify for anyone asking, I did not realize who she was in the 0.05 seconds when I shot up in a haze. So to me she was some random woman until the morning when I was able to realize who it was. She didn't really hit him hard, but it was a flurry of frustration slaps. No real harm was done. My mom trying to calm my dad down out of a suicidal fit. My brother and I had been really bad that day, and when he grounded us, we both told him that we hated him and wanted him to go away. He didn't do anything wrong. My brother and I were just a couple of immature little cunts. I'm pretty sure blackout drunk at this point, which I had never seen and still haven't saw since then, walked into our room that night and I pretended to fall asleep. Then he just started these deep, haunting sobs that I'll probably never forget. He stumbled outside and we could hear him begging my mom to let him die and sobbing, "All I've ever wanted in my entire life was to be a better dad than mine." I was only 11 or so, but it ducking destroyed my heart. I think that's the time I learned that emotional pain can actually physically hurt. I was hunched over in my bed bawling my eyes out and on the verge of throwing up. I also felt like an asshole for crying over what we said. My brother was thankfully able to sleep through it all. I think about that once every 2 weeks or so, and I always message him to tell him I love him when I do. I hope he forgot about it. But being a dad myself now, I don't think it's something you totally forget. It might not hurt like it did in the moment, but I don't think you forget. Like most heartbreaking things, I guess. My friends talking about going into my wallet later and steal my money, and then leave before I notice. I kicked them out. Parents talking about plans for when they were going to have a six. My mom and aunt talking, thinking 10-year-old me was asleep. Aunt, "Little runs and gooses is so cute." Mom, "No, he's not very good looking at all." Before I got divorced, was laying in bed late, 11 AM or so, on my day off. After a long string of I think 10 or so work days in a row, my ex, who refused to get a job, was in the next room playing a video game, and I heard him say that my third king itch is still sleeping. The person in the bunk under me beating his D like it owed him money. No wonder people at school think he's gay. My stepmom. Sleeping over at a friend's house when I was 14. All of us on the floor in living room. Couldn't sleep. Two of my friends, guy and girl, directly next to me start doing freaky things to each other. I was extremely shy and a couple of years younger than them, so I stayed quiet and hoped they'd stop. Had to listen to them for an hour while she made weird ass moaning squeaky noises and he was singing. in a weird slightly whispery singy voice, Matchbox 20 songs to her while he did whatever he was doing. That was last time I slept over at a friend's house. My dad and stepmom was having a foursome with a couple of their friends. We were at a summer house and they did it in the living room. I felt so uncomfortable eating breakfast the next day. Not me, but my wife heard her boyfriend having sex with her best friend. This was obviously long before we met. My sister's soon-to-be fiancé wanking while saying her name. Probably the funniest was on a camping trip with the boys. I have sleep apnea and use a CPAP machine. I overheard a couple of my mates talking about smoking a joint and hotboxing me through the air intake of my CPAP machine. When I was a wee tot, I pretended to be asleep in the family room so I wouldn't have to actually go to bed, and once my parents were distracted, I could keep watching TV. I then got to hear my dad proposition my mom for couch sex. It's been many years so I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of hop on pop. My sister got drunk and I heard a loud thud and she blacked out. Two of her friends and my mom and dad were shouting at each other and they were saying to shut up cause they didn't want to wake me up, and they were all crying thinking she was dead, and I couldn't tell my sister I was happy she didn't die. Now I appreciate seeing her every week. I wasn't pretending to be asleep per se, but I was well on my way. I was under anesthesia and was fading in and out. I remember closing my eyes to help move things along. I was in a lot of pain because my appendix ruptured. This happened years ago, so I can't remember all of the details. Unfortunately, I remember being moved over to an operating table, and they told me to take my shirt off. I think I heard someone go, "What do you think would happen if I poked her belly button right now?" I was an outie prior to having an appendectomy. They went through my belly button, so that is no longer the case. Anyway, someone, very quickly, responded, "Dude, that is not funny. Remember what happened the last time?" It's possible I was starting to dream, but I remember it making me feel a mix of amusement and anxiety. My roommate and her FWB having loud, dirty talk 6. I just had my wisdom teeth out and I think they assumed I was passed out on pain meds. When I was around 8 years old I was supposed to be asleep, but I snuck downstairs to get milk or something. I heard talking going on downstairs, so I stood still and listened. My mom was talking to my brother about how much of a problem I was and how she hated me. She always liked my brother more. I just silently crept back upstairs and cried myself to sleep. Good times. Well, my friends sucking each other's D. They were 16. My mom getting the it beat out of her. Update. Thanks for everything guys. Like I said in a reply, it was 30 years ago. He and my mom were married on off until about 7 years ago when he put her in the hospital and I ended up breaking his nose and a rib. No idea where he is now, but she knows if she ever talks to him again or mentions him she loses a son. Update 2. I notice some people following me. You really don't want to do that. I'm what you call a very nice asshole. I do argue about stupid meaningless it and have a very strong opinion against racism and fascists. I've only posted one original content here. On a class trip, I heard a girl talk badly about me to the other girls in my room, saying I was a retard and too dumb to stand up for myself. She said the only reason she didn't bully me out of this school was because she needed me to help her with my homework. Then my best friend stood up for me. She said that I wasn't dumb and just a bit shy, and then told her to F off. My mum's boyfriend sloppily trying to duck my mum all drunk as it whilst we're all sharing the same ducking hotel room. I was 13. I was at my BF's apartment staying over. His roommate also happened to have some friends who were dating there as well. I was in my BF's room and they were sleeping in the living room. They were definitely ducking. Weirdest thing of it all were these little banging sounds. Like someone was hitting the ducking wall. The whole time I had to piss like a mother ducker, but getting to the bathroom involved walking by the living room and I did not wanna risk it. When we woke up the next morning, someone had ripped a chunk out of one of the curtains and the TV remote was snapped in half. To this day I don't wanna know what the duck was going on in there. Freshman college roommate watching porn on his laptop wearing headphones. Humping his mattress like there's no tomorrow. Had a bunk bed in college and one night my girlfriend and I woke up to my roommate banging some chick on the top bunk. My girlfriend asked me what we should do and I just mumbled just go back to sleep because I figured saying something to them at the moment would make things much more awkward. He still doesn't know. Roommate's boyfriend and his friend came into my room when they thought I was asleep. It was warm and I was sleeping naked with minimal blanket coverage. I froze and pretended to sleep. They proceeded to talk about my body and how it was anyone's type. Also how easily it was to drug ladies these days. Oh, and also the friend talked about how easy it would be to sell my boyfriend's boat motor that he had stored in the room. Yeah, so they were kicked out and friend became an ex-friend because she was pissed I let my boyfriend kick them out. When I was like 10 or 11 I visited my dad and while we were watching a movie I tried to fall asleep and I proceeded to hear him duck his GF on the bed I was trying to sleep on. When I woke up all I saw was clothes on the floor. I don't know why I didn't just get up and leave, but at least I fell asleep before it really started. I wasn't pretending to be asleep so much as they assumed I was asleep. My in-laws thought I was still napping after dropping my kid off at school. And they started to talk me. They said I was a terrible mom. I didn't care about my kids at all and they better buy a cake because I would rather sleep all day than make him a cake. It was his birthday and my god, it was only 10 AM. It doesn't take that long to make and frost a cake for him. Anyways, I cried in my room for 2 hours before they left to buy groceries, i.e. drink themselves into a stupor. Before I got up and made the cake and birthday dinner my child asked for. I didn't tell my husband what they said until a week later because I didn't want to ruin his or my child's day. My grandparents won $10,000 at the casino, and they told all of their children, and presumably gave them some of that money, except my dad. My dad is a D, so I didn't tell him either. I was in trade school in a different city than my hometown, so I was staying at my in-laws' home. My wife's dad was away for the weekend and I noticed her mom was wearing fancy dresses. She's a very beautiful woman, often mistaken for my wife's sister. She also seemed extra giddy before she would go out for the evenings. On the evening my father-in-law got home, I was in my room studying when I heard him yell at the top of his lungs, "So you F the guy?" I can only assume she felt guilty and told him since it was soon after he go home. Anyways, he was yelling at her for most of the night and I heard lots of crying from both of them. I heard some pretty terrible things. They are both very nice people and it was sad to hear them on their worst night. They've stayed together and it looks like they are fighting to make their marriage work. My father-in-law was very cold, distant, and angry for a couple of years, but they seem to be warm towards each other again. Also, the following morning they apologized for all the noise they made and I told them I was just listening to music. Found out my dad's best friend died. They have been friends since they were literally 5 years old. Went to the same schools. Stayed best friends for 50 years. And he became an alcoholic and cut off contact with everybody. My dad still reached out to him multiple times even though he obviously wasn't ready. He eventually got off the drink and they became really close again and were calling each other every day. I woke up to the phone ringing and my dad looking at it and immediately saying to my mom, "Oh god, I think he's dead." He knew that she only called when something bad was up and he had been hospitalized multiple times because of his drinking. I remember saying on a post years ago that I dread to think of the day that his best friend died because I knew it was coming soon because of his past. My dad is old and is the type of guy who just wants a chat. And I know a lot of people he talks to don't want to do that. Anyway, I heard it all unfold and pretended to sleep because I just did not know what to say. I couldn't imagine losing a best friend for that long. I sat in my bed for hours thinking about it but just laying still. I didn't fully process it until I went to work and I spent nearly 2 hours crying in the toilets. That was the only time I cried in my adult life. We could do it. She wouldn't tell anyone if we took photos of her first. Probably my dad's dementia screaming. Usually nothing is wrong. But he'll wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning to yell at God and grind his teeth. You never do get used to it. My then boyfriend opening up our bedroom door to show me off to his friends while I was sleeping. It was the middle of summer so I was lying butt naked on our bed. He thought I was asleep. Huge fight occurred the next morning and we were not dating for long after that event. WTF man. I'm still pissed off about that. You knew I was naked. My ex and his friend joking about how easy it'd be to abuse me while I was sleeping. My older brother in the next room when he snuck a girl in. They had sex for about a minute and then I could hear him apologizing for about 20. May not be the worst ever, but it's definitely the funniest. Parents discussing the gift that Santa had got for me for Christmas. I was doing a all-nighter with the boys, gaming of course. I fell asleep at some point playing Minecraft Creative, and woke up too. How often do you guys pleasure yourselves? Edit, grammar. I was called duck meat by a girl. Come on, he's asleep. Okay, fine, I'll do it. But how do I suck it? Like just let it go in your mouth and stroke it with your tongue? Well, I'll try. Oh yeah. Choking noises, coughing, duck you. Rumored getting a blowjob. The worst part was when I heard him say I'm gonna come. Legit wanted to die. My dad explaining how I was an accident. My roommate's one night stand dismount because his D was hitting her bladder and she waddled off for a piss before getting back on top. When I was a kid, I used to be scared of monsters or something creeping up on me in my sleep, so I would always ask my dad to check on me before he went to bed. It made me feel more comfortable. One night, I was still awake when I heard him coming up the stairs, and I wasn't supposed to be awake and knew I would get in trouble if he saw me, so I pretended to be asleep. He came into my room and just kinda stared at me for a few seconds, then came up close to my bed, lifted the blanket up, farted under it, turned around and left. It's been at least 15 years and I remember that night vividly. He vehemently denies it to this day, but I know what happened. While in kindergarten, I heard the teacher talking on her phone and saying that she doesn't feel comfortable having an Indian kid in her class. At the time I didn't understand why she hated me, but now I know. My mom and stepdad talking mad it about me. I was in high school and needed to start seeing the counselor for mental health issues. My parents were essentially making fun of me, saying that I wanted attention and started mocking my voice saying, "No one understands me. I'm so mistreated."